LMP2 car in Le Mans Ultimate is pretty challenging to drive, and in this video I will talk about how to actually drive this car, how to make it safer, better on the tires, some overall setup changes to help you out to make your racing more consistently in the LMP2. I've been sim racing on a lot of different simulators, got some help from a beta tester and esports driver as well. I just did 2 massive stints on Spa, and this is what I've learned. Let's go. So when you're coming out of the pits with an LMP2 car, it is important to just take it so easy, take it more slowly than you might think. Same as I'm going here on Aero and Radion, I'm massively lifting. So I found out that when you drive any car in Le Mans Ultimate, you really need to give the tires a moment to warm up. So you can see, like, after one warm-up lap we got the tires in this window of like 50 degrees, and they're still not working super well. It's getting better now, but just an out lap and think, okay, now can push the car. That is actually not the case. So I'm just pushing this laps, and I'm trying to slowly get my braking points to the point where I can brake a bit later, hitting the throttle more aggressively, steering more aggressively, and like constantly pushing the boundary a little bit more forward. And after, like, I don't know, this is like the 3rd lap, I actually got into some rhythm and I could find some additional pace. Now take note, I used the default setup in this stint, and I'm going to empty the tank completely with this default setup. But there is a problem with this default setup, and that's the slow corner behavior, especially on the entry. Now the obvious thing you can do is just increase the brake bias to make sure you're not spinning on these slow corners, because that's what, like, you could see here as well, the car is just like almost like turning a little bit. It's very hard to see it in this replay, but yeah, this is actually the fastest lap that I did, and let's just run through it. So what basically happening with this basic setup, it's really good, it's fast, you can push it, you can have the rotation. And the guy that helped me, Hani Al-Sabdi, he said to me that these setups are from an esports standpoint, and they just made a bit safer for everyone. Now if you ask me, for me they don't really feel that safe to start out with, but it's very simple to increase the brake bias with like 3 or 4 clicks on your steering wheel, let's say. Then the car becomes way more forgiving on the entry. But later on I will also go into some setup changes, what I did in the 2nd stint, because in this stint now I got the tires in the proper temperature. There's like 80 degrees or something, and I've also already seen a lot of stuff on different forums and people telling that you really need to take care of those tires. If you start spinning or locking up a lot, you get into this endless spiral of horrible stuff that the tire's gonna go away from you more and more and more. So it's really important to be careful on the braking. Now this lap, obviously it's not an esport lap because I'm just a normal dude just like you, but know that this lap was pretty decent. I could do these lines, that's why I wanted to show you the lap as well. I'm taking these lines, still learning the game as well with the braking and how to brake with this car. I found that when you have your braking set up, your brake input should be super small, and if you have a corner that you immediately need to brake, and then also immediately start releasing it as soon as you feel like when you're slowing the car down, right? So you're braking fully immediately and then immediately need to drop it. Now You can see over here, I just lost it because I'm trying to push the car. But what I absolutely hate about setups, if you start pushing them, then you get punished, right? So here as well, the spins and the mistakes you make, the reason why I'm struggling here is because I spun this car already for like 3-4 times, and that will continue out through the stint. So every time, like over here as well, and it gets worse and worse every time, right? Every time you spin or you start sliding, it gets more and more nervous. So let's look at some setup changes to make the car more predictable. Now over here as well. Yeah, I'm really scared of the chicane. That's the only thing you're gonna see in this video. Also the next part, this corner over here as well. Not a good auto. Sorry for the language, Dutch people. And then at the end of the stint, and yeah, so the fuel was running out, and over here I lost it just on this entry. I completely destroyed the tires, although the screen says 75%, right? So the setups on Llama Ultimate for the LMP2 car, yeah? This is gonna be the first video about setups and all that stuff. This is the basics, but these are actually something that works. Now, I've seen people that are like, they're already companies selling you their setups, and I was thinking about, okay, I'm gonna try to sell them as well, but these changes are so simple, it feels so stupid to try to sell you this. I mean, and I will also take you through these menus to explain what the process is in the moment with these setups, right? So if you can appreciate that, please hit that like button and maybe subscribe to the channel. That will be helpful. I created this was the basic setup, and this is the basic safe setup. So just load that up, and I put here a description. There's more to it, so let's talk about it. And let's talk about the setup screen overall. So let's say we have the setup, and we can do basic, and we can compare that one, and then we go to powertrain, let's say, and we can compare setup on the wheels and brakes here, and you can see we made a change, right, to the basic setup. That's really nice. Okay, let's start with the Aero. It's simple car setup theory that whenever you lose grip on the back end of the car while braking, this means that these wheels on the back are somehow robbed of some grip or some tire contact. Not aerodynamics, because we're driving so slow, the aerodynamics are turned off. So what I did, I detached the rear anti-roll bar. Now what does that do? You have the rear tires, and the higher the anti-roll bar, the more stuck they are together. And when we're in slow corner situation, we kind of missing out on contact patch on the inside tire of the wheel when we're cornering, and the outside kind of overloads and just like stiffen up. So if we lower that, or in this case we detached it completely, the independently can move from each other, and they kind of like have more contact with the road surface, which decreases the oversteer on entry. Dampers we didn't touch. And to bring some extra effect to this rear grip, I dropped the spring rates on the back. So they are softer now, meaning from an aerodynamic standpoint, the aerodynamic rake will be more flatter on the faster corners, and when we're going a little bit slower, we have more mechanical grip, because the tires on the back are kind of more free in its suspension, so the wheel gets more tire grip efficiency, so we get more grip from that. To offset the understeer, I took the ride height and I put the ride height up, right? So here you can see plus and minus. Plus means that the default setup has +2 spring rate, and the different ride height of the basic setup from Le Mans Ultimate has less ride height. So I jacked up the rear ride height. Now this is the first changes I did, so maybe you want to do this more, but I found pretty decent rotation on fast corners, so I thought this was pretty good. Now then we go to the brake bias, and the brake bias I put more forward, right? So the default setup has it lower and this has it more forward. If you're running a fixed setup series, then yeah, this is the only thing you can do, and you need to just be like more careful. These setup changes I just explained, they are an extra safety margin. So, and by the way, I would just take a basic setup and do these changes to make it more safe. You'll be a bit slower throughout the lap. This is true. You are going to be a bit slower. You're gonna have some understeer everywhere, but it's gonna be so much more safe, and you're gonna have so much more control. And I will see everyone spinning off on the entry, and I will just have, I mean, I can have a smoke and a coffee because I don't have to worry about the oversteer on entry in the slow corners with this setup. Now, another setup thing that I've learned, people have told me this, I didn't know this. It seems like there's always something broken with simulators, right? So I'm not saying this is broken, but lowest tire pressures you want to run and the lowest camber values to get the most pace. Somehow, like, yeah, hopefully they fix that in the future to, you know, play around with some pressures. Yeah, a little bit less pressure, more pressure, a little bit camber to get the in, middle and the outside of the wheel more in its window would be nice. And that was it. Basically it. Let's look quickly at those second stint and how childishly easy this car becomes to drive. Now in this quick warm-up lap, I will show you how you need to heat up those tires, right? So this car is safer from its baseline with the setup changes we did, and I'm actually weaving a lot with this setup because that is actually helping. I checked, you can check it yourself. Also the braking, like really hit those brakes a few times. You can really see the temperatures of the tires move up. By the way, the MFD, I keep this screen there a lot. Yeah, that really helps me out, and I still need to figure out better force feedback settings, but I'm constantly weaving, braking, and that will give me more temperature. So you need to do that in your outlap and be slow. Try not to slide, just keep those tires on the tarmac and just create friction without sliding. That really helps you out. So when I did this stint, the second stint, this was also like 17, 18 laps, I also tried different traction control settings. The eSport driver said you should have the cut the lowest. I think that was with the GT3 car, that can really help you. But with the LMP2, I don't know, I kind of wanted to force this car setup and it was way more safer, but I didn't find that the other traction control settings were making me any quicker. So obviously I mistake the brakes here one time. So let's talk about these laps and listen to me how I go to this corner, and this was like, listen. Okay, that felt so much more safer in the slow corner. So again, now I'm braking into this corner and I can force the steering and throttle, and it is night and day difference. Oh man, so much better. Oh my god, what a difference. Day and night difference. So I was really happy. Yes, it was a bit slower. There was some understeer, so obviously there's still something to be found. But what's also interesting is that percentages wise, this is the same moment where we stopped from the last corner and I just could keep going, right? The percentages wise, the tires are better. I did not spin this car like once, like only on throttle. One time I spun it through throttle, but it was so much more forgiving in a longer stint as well, and that will absolutely save the tires. So that's also what they said, what the guy said, like and like some other information I saw stuff, that if you respect those tires, if you're not spinning, then you're gonna have such a better stint overall. And this safe setup is just giving you yeah, make sure you don't spin, so you get like a better car overall, and you're gonna be way faster because of it. So yeah, if you want additional info like settings and all that stuff, check out my Patreon for free members. I put like in the collections, I put all the knowledge from LMU there, so you can just take over the settings and all that good stuff. Thanks for watching.